I 26F am uncomfortable with the relationship between my fiance 28M and his best friend or bandmate 27F, and I think it may have ruined our chance of being together. I've been with my fiance Joe for a couple of years now. We have a great relationship, he's funny and talented, and we have a lot of fun together, but there's always been one big issue. Natalie, Joe and Nat are really close friends. It borders on unhealthy codependency for sure. When we met, they were living together too, but she was out of the country, so I didn't meet her until we'd been together a couple months. They also work together, artists, musicians. When we started dating, Joe gave me a disclaimer about them and their close relationship, but I didn't really know what I was getting into. Once I met her, I understood it. She's the prettiest person I've ever seen in my life. I heard a lot about her, but no one told me she looked like a fucking supermodel. It was jarring too because Joe is just average. They started writing music again together and performing, which meant a lot of time alone. I also was under the impression that their band involved multiple people, but it's just the two of them. Natalie always invited me for practice and whatnot, but TBH, being around them made me feel like a third wheel. Then I saw them perform, and for some reason they decided to cover this song, which felt like a slap in the face to me, especially given the context of the movie. It's not even their genre, and I was extra upset because there's that line, "You can always come in my back door," and we have issues because I don't like anal. And she even bent over and gave a little wink, and it made me so fucking mad. Joe laughed it off and said the song was funny and gets a good crowd response. And also, they're affectionate. I mean, they're not kissing each other, but always close. Well, anyway, she ended up traveling a lot for a long period of time for some good career opportunity. I had to talk Joe out of joining her, and things got a lot better with us. We even got engaged, and it was great. Then for Xmas, we went to his home country so I could meet his family, and things went sideways as fuck. First off, Nat was in every family photo, going back years. Then his mom was asking about Nat and later saying she was going to be out to visit next week. Joe had a bit too much to drink at this point and got emotional about that, saying he wished he would have known because he would have changed our plans. I pulled him aside and told him I wasn't comfortable with how intertwined she was with his family, especially if we were going to get married. I asked if something could be done about that, and he laughed in my face and told me that I could be the one to try to bring that up with his mom. So I did, and his mom looked at me like I slapped her, and then the whole family got upset. Joe got really mad at me and we left. Apparently she was a foreign exchange student or SEMF, and they were immediately best friends. They were weird kids and didn't have other friends before each other. Every year they alternated staying with their families between Ireland and Germany. I never knew about this, but there were things. Like we were watching a movie once and a character was speaking German and Joe was able to translate. When I asked him WF he speaks German, he gave me a weird look and was like, yeah, that's where Nat is from. Then when they were teenagers and the two were in Ireland, Nat's family was killed back in her country, and so she stayed there with his family until they moved out together. And they've basically been side by side since for 15 plus years. They lived together and went to school together, and then lived together and worked together since they were like 12. Apparently, there was one school year their parents decided not to put them together, and they both reacted so hostile and began acting out with crime and drugs that their parents gave in. I don't know why I didn't know this and started to wonder what else. Asked if they slept together. And yes, they sure did. About 6 years ago for like a year. Then one night, Nat kissed a guy and Joe beat the shit out of him. They got in fight and decided sex was complicating things and then just stopped. But then they also hooked up a few times since. I freaked out. After all the "she's like my sister" bullshit, Joe insisted it didn't mean anything but WTF. He kept saying it was purely physical and there were no feelings. But if there weren't feelings, how did things get complicated then? Well, regardless, we managed to talk it out, but didn't go back to his parents. He argued that they were barely even friends anymore since he hasn't seen her in so long, and I did such a good job tearing them apart. I told him he asked me to marry him and should act like it. We fought for like 3 days until he got sick of it. Last week, he gets a call from her, I hear him get upset and argue, then he starts to leave. I ask him WF. He just said Natalie's in trouble and he need to go to her and leaves. Just hopped on a plane and left. Just like that. If I wouldn't have asked, he probably wouldn't have even said a word to me. So naturally I was pissed. And I started drinking and sent some angry messages. And I basically told him that if he was going to leave like that and run to her, he made it clear he was choosing her over me, and he shouldn't bother coming home. His response was just okay and that he would come back soon to get his stuff, which really pissed me off. Well, yesterday I talked to our mutual friend Chloe, who told me that Natalie was in a bad situation and called Joe from the hospital. I felt kinda bad then and wondered why Joe didn't tell me that detail, so I called him. It wasn't a good conversation. I told him I understood why he left, but since she's okay now, he should come home. He disagreed and fucking flipped out on me. Said that if I didn't keep them apart and put distance between them, she might have opened up to him about the shit she was dealing with and he could have helped. He called me manipulative and jealous. I do feel bad, but I still think I didn't do anything that bad. Chloe told me she'd be surprised if Joe wants to work things out. I love him, but this situation is so weird. I just want some advice. Is our relationship salvageable? Is what I did that bad? Should we even bother, or should I just let him and Natalie do their weird, not a real couple bullshit? Edit. I just found out she tried to be with him and he rejected her. And he didn't want to ruin their friendship? I'm so fucking confused.